They didn't leave because you failed. They left because God said, "That's far enough." There comes a moment in every strong woman's life when the room empties, not by accident, but by design. It doesn't make sense at first. The silence is louder than ever. The questions multiply. Why now? Why me? What changed? You look around and realize you're the only one still standing. But what if this solitude isn't a punishment but a promotion? What if walking alone is the beginning of something only God could orchestrate? And what if the people He removed were never meant to see who you're becoming? Let's talk about the 11 hidden truths behind why certain women are called out, set apart, and walk alone, not because they're weak, but because they're chosen. And by the time you reach the end, you'll never see your isolation the same way again. When solitude is not rejection, but divine selection, there is a kind of loneliness that doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up when the messages stop coming, when invitations fade, when familiar voices slowly disappear. At first, it hurts. It makes a woman wonder if she did something wrong, if she became too much or not enough. But spiritually speaking, this silence is often the beginning of something sacred. God has a habit of clearing the room before He speaks clearly. And when He does, He prefers intimacy over noise. Jesus understood this deeply. The scriptures tell us that He often withdrew from crowds to pray alone, not because He lacked love for people, but because He knew alignment comes before assignment. In those quiet moments, away from applause and opinions, His connection with the Father was strengthened. Women who walk alone experience something similar. Their solitude is not a punishment, it is preparation. The Holy Spirit uses isolation to sharpen discernment and deepen spiritual authority. Think about Elijah, exhausted and afraid, hiding in a cave. He expected God to arrive with thunder and fire, but instead, God came in a gentle whisper. That whisper only became audible because everything else had gone quiet. In the same way, when God removes people from a woman's life, He's not being cruel. He's reducing interference. He's protecting her mental health, refining her prayer life, and restoring clarity she didn't know she had lost. Practically speaking, this season changes everything. Decisions become clearer, career paths feel more intentional, emotional attachments loosen their grip. Without constant external input, a woman begins to recognize her own voice again, and God's voice within it. She stops outsourcing validation. She stops chasing connection that drains her spirit. Instead, she learns stillness, discipline, and trust. This is where faith matures, not in crowds, but in quiet obedience. There is a verse that becomes especially alive in this phase. "Be still and know that I am God." Psalm 46:10. Stillness isn't inactivity, it's surrender. It's choosing not to force relationships God is gently removing. It's accepting that some people were only meant to walk with you for a season, not the entire journey. And that realization, while painful, is incredibly freeing. Here's the spiritual turning point, the moment everything shifts internally. When a woman stops resisting solitude and starts honoring it, loneliness transforms into alignment. The silence becomes sacred, prayer becomes deeper, intuition becomes sharper. She no longer feels abandoned, she feels chosen. It's as if heaven quietly says, "Now you're ready to hear what few are trusted to receive." Let me ask you something honestly. Are you fighting this quiet season, or are you listening within it? Have you considered that the people God removed were not losses, but limitations? If this resonates with you, reflect on it. And if you feel led, share in the comments what this season of solitude has been teaching you. Why God removes people before He reveals purpose. There is a pattern God follows that few talk about openly. Before He elevates, He separates. Before He reveals purpose, He removes familiarity. For women who walk alone, this removal feels abrupt, even unfair. One day people are close, the next they're distant or gone, and the heart asks, why now? But spiritually, God understands something we often don't. Purpose cannot survive constant emotional interference. Some connections, though comfortable, dilute calling. Look at Abraham. God didn't explain everything up front. He simply said, leave your country, your people, and your father's household. Genesis 12:1. No map, no guarantees, just obedience. Separation came before promise. Abraham couldn't carry his old environment into a new destiny. In the same way, when God is preparing a woman for depth, leadership, or spiritual authority, he begins by removing voices that anchor her to who she used to be. This is where emotions get tangled, because many of the people God removes aren't toxic, they're familiar. They're safe, they know your past, but they also carry old versions of you in their expectations. God sees how that limits growth, so he quietly allows distance. Conversations dry up, alignment fades, and suddenly a woman is left standing alone, wondering why relationships feel heavier than before. That weight is often the signal that transition has already begun. In practical terms, this separation affects daily life. Productivity increases because distractions decrease. Career decisions become clearer because fewer opinions cloud judgment. Emotional dependence weakens, making room for discernment. A woman begins to invest in her inner life. Prayer, reflection, discipline. This is where mental health stabilizes, not because life is easier, but because it's more intentional. Purpose thrives in clarity, not chaos. Then comes the emotional climax, the moment of realization. One quiet day, often during prayer or reflection, it clicks. God didn't remove them to hurt me, he removed them to reach me. What once felt like rejection reveals itself as redirection. The pain doesn't vanish, but it gains meaning, and meaning changes everything. The heart softens, faith deepens, and resistance turns into trust. So let me ask you, who has God been slowly distancing from your life lately? And instead of chasing the connection back, what if you leaned into the space he created? Purpose doesn't shout, it waits. And often, it only speaks when the room is finally quiet enough to listen, when walking alone builds unshakable inner strength. There's a strength that can't be borrowed, inherited, or taught quickly. It's forged. And most of the time, it's forged in solitude. When a woman walks alone, she's forced to face herself without distractions. No one to lean on emotionally. No one to decide for her. No one to rescue her from uncomfortable thoughts. At first, that feels overwhelming. But slowly, something remarkable happens. She discovers she's stronger than she ever believed. Scripture is full of moments like this. Think of Hagar in the wilderness, abandoned, exhausted, convinced her story was over. She cried out, not knowing anyone was listening. But God met her there and revealed himself as the God who sees. Not in a palace, not in community, but alone, in the desert. Strength didn't come from escape. It came from encounter. Solitude became the place where identity was restored. This is where many women misunderstand the season. They think independence means emotional hardness. It doesn't. It means emotional clarity. Walking alone doesn't erase vulnerability. It refines it. Without constant reassurance from others, a woman learns to self-regulate, to pray instead of panic, to reflect instead of react. Her mental health stabilizes because her worth is no longer negotiated daily through relationships. Practically, this strength changes behavior. Boundaries become non-negotiable. Time is used intentionally. Career goals are approached with discipline, not desperation. She becomes productive without burning out because her energy isn't leaking into unnecessary connections. This is where personal development accelerates, not through motivation, but through consistency. Strength stops being loud. It becomes quiet, steady, reliable. Then comes the internal shift, subtle but powerful. One day she realizes she's no longer afraid of being alone. The fear that once drove her choices loses its grip. That's the moment authority is born, because when loneliness no longer controls you, neither do people. Faith matures here. Prayer deepens. Decisions align. She doesn't rush doors anymore. She waits for confirmation. So here's a question worth sitting with. If being alone no longer scares you, what would change about the way you live, love, and choose? Walking alone isn't the end of the story. It's the chapter where strength becomes permanent. And once it does, nothing fragile can stay. Why solitude refines discernment and exposes truth. When a woman walks alone long enough, something subtle but powerful begins to sharpen: her discernment. Without the constant noise of opinions, expectations, and emotional dependency, truth starts rising to the surface. She notices patterns she once ignored. Words hit differently. Energy feels louder. What used to confuse her now feels obvious. Solitude doesn't make her suspicious. It makes her aware, and awareness is dangerous to anything built on illusion. The Bible shows this pattern clearly. Solomon didn't ask God for riches or recognition. He asked for discernment, the ability to see rightly, and God honored that request. Discernment isn't intuition alone. It's spiritual perception refined through stillness. Women who walk alone often realize that many past connections were sustained by habit, not alignment. Once the noise fades, truth can no longer hide behind familiarity. This awakening can feel uncomfortable. Memories resurface. Red flags finally make sense. She recognizes where she compromised values to keep peace, where she silenced her intuition to avoid conflict. Walking alone removes the pressure to perform emotionally. Without needing approval, she becomes honest, first with herself, then with God. This honesty is where healing truly begins, especially for mental and emotional well-being. In everyday life, discernment changes everything. She no longer rushes into relationships, romantic or professional. She observes, she listens, she waits. In her career, she chooses paths aligned with purpose, not just income. In her personal life, she values peace over popularity. Productivity increases because energy is no longer wasted on confusion. Discernment simplifies life by removing what no longer fits. Then comes the spiritual climax, the realization that not everything lost was good, and not everything painful was bad. God didn't just remove people, He revealed truth through their absence. What once felt like loneliness now feels like clarity. The fog lifts, and with clear vision comes authority, the quiet confidence of someone who knows what they will and will not tolerate. So let me ask you something personal. What truths became clearer only after certain people stepped away from your life? And are you brave enough to honor what God has shown you, even if it means staying alone a little longer? Discernment is a gift, but only solitude teaches you how to use it. The spiritual authority born only in isolation. There is a level of spiritual authority that cannot be given. It must be developed, and development often happens away from witnesses. When a woman walks alone with God, without an audience, without validation, something inside her shifts. Her faith stops being borrowed and becomes owned. She no longer repeats prayers she heard from others. She prays from experience. Authority grows when belief is tested in silence and still stands. Moses lived this truth. Before leading millions, he spent years alone in the desert. No applause, no affirmation, just responsibility, routine, and God. The wilderness stripped him of insecurity and replaced it with obedience. Women who walk alone go through a similar refining. The absence of people forces dependence on God, not emotionally, but spiritually. That dependence builds confidence rooted in faith, not approval. At first, this authority feels unfamiliar. She hesitates to trust it. Her discernment grows sharper, her intuition clearer, yet she wonders if she's imagining it. But she isn't. The Holy Spirit trains quietly. Through prayer, fasting, reflection, and discipline, her spiritual muscles strengthen. She stops asking for permission to obey God. She starts moving with conviction, even when it costs comfort. This authority shows up practically. She says no without guilt. She walks away without explaining. She makes decisions aligned with long-term purpose, not short-term relief. In her career, she chooses integrity over speed. In relationships, she values alignment over chemistry. Her mental health improves because internal conflict fades. Authority creates peace, not because life is perfect, but because direction is clear. Then comes the defining moment, the internal recognition. She realizes she no longer needs to be understood by everyone. God understands her, and that is enough. This is where fear loosens its grip. People-pleasing dissolves. Faith becomes steady, grounded, unshakable. She doesn't chase doors anymore. She waits for the ones God opens, and when they open, she walks through with confidence. So here's a question worth reflecting on. Could it be that God allowed you to walk alone because He trusted you with authority you hadn't yet discovered? And are you willing to honor that authority, even if it means fewer companions? Isolation doesn't weaken those called to lead. It prepares them. Why God protects these women through distance. Protection doesn't always look like comfort. Sometimes it looks like distance. When God removes people from a woman's life, He's often shielding her from what she cannot yet see. Not every danger announces itself loudly. Some arrive smiling, familiar, and well-intentioned. Women who walk alone are frequently spared from delayed pain because God intervenes early, quietly, and firmly. Scripture hints at this kind of protection again and again. Joseph didn't understand why betrayal came from his own family. He didn't see how the pit, the prison, and the isolation were all layers of divine insulation. God was keeping Joseph away from small thinking, emotional manipulation, and premature exposure. In the same way, when God creates distance in a woman's life, He is often preventing contamination of her purpose. This protection is subtle, which is why it's misunderstood. Relationships don't always end in chaos. Sometimes they simply fade. Conversations feel forced. Energy no longer flows. And the heart resists because comfort feels safer than obedience. But God sees trajectories. He sees how certain environments would slowly drain her mental health, distort her self-worth, or delay her calling. Distance becomes mercy disguised as loss. In practical life, this protection shows up as redirection. Plans fall apart, collaborations dissolve, emotional attachments weaken. At first, it feels inconvenient. But later, she realizes how much stress she avoided, how many wrong turns she didn't take. Her productivity improves because emotional turbulence decreases. Her focus sharpens because fewer people have access to her inner world. Then comes the emotional realization, often much later. She looks back and sees it clearly. If that person had stayed, I wouldn't be who I am now. Gratitude replaces confusion. What once felt like abandonment reveals itself as intervention. God didn't take something away. He preserved something sacred, her peace, her calling, her future. So here's a sincere question. Are you mourning connections God removed, or are you trusting that He protected you from what you didn't yet have the strength to resist? Distance isn't rejection. Sometimes it's God standing guard over a destiny too valuable to expose too early. How solitude heals emotional patterns and breaks cycles. There are emotional cycles that can only be broken when no one else is around to distract us from them. Patterns don't disappear in company, they hide. When a woman walks alone, old wounds surface, not to harm her, but to be healed properly. Solitude removes the escape routes. No constant conversations, no emotional crutches, just truth, reflection, and the quiet work of restoration. The Bible shows this inner healing process clearly. When Jacob was about to face his past, he was left alone by the river. Alone is where he wrestled, not with people, but with God. And that night changed his identity forever. In the same way, women who walk alone are often facing internal battles no one else could fight for them. Healing doesn't come from distraction, it comes from confrontation. This season exposes emotional habits that once felt normal. Overgiving, over-explaining, fear of abandonment, the need to be chosen. Without relationships constantly triggering these patterns, a woman finally sees them clearly. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also freeing. Awareness creates choice, and choice is where healing begins, especially for emotional balance and mental health. Practically, this healing changes reactions. She pauses instead of panicking. She listens instead of assuming. She responds instead of chasing. In her career and daily life, she stops repeating cycles of burnout and self-neglect. Productivity improves because emotional exhaustion decreases. She begins investing energy intentionally, not impulsively. Healing simplifies life by removing internal chaos. Then comes the quiet breakthrough. The moment she realizes she no longer reacts the way she used to. Old triggers lose power, old fears feel distant. She doesn't need closure from people anymore because she found clarity within. This is where emotional maturity takes root. Not perfection, but stability. Not numbness, but peace. So here's a question worth reflecting on. What emotional patterns became visible only after you started walking alone? And instead of rushing to replace companionship, what if this season is God helping you break cycles you were never meant to carry forward? Healing doesn't rush, it transforms. Why these women become unavailable to the wrong people. Something quietly changes in a woman who has walked alone with God long enough. She doesn't announce it. She doesn't harden her heart, but suddenly access to her feels different. What once reached her easily no longer does. Not because she became cold, but because she became clear. Solitude refined her standards, and clarity naturally creates distance from what doesn't align. The Bible reflects this shift in Esther's story. Before she stepped into her calling, there was a season of preparation. Hidden, unseen, intentional. She wasn't accessible to everyone. Not everyone had a voice in her life. That separation wasn't arrogance, it was wisdom. Women who walk alone undergo a similar transformation. Their spirit becomes selective, not defensive. Discernment replaces availability. Emotionally, this can surprise people around her. The same dynamics no longer work. Manipulation feels obvious. Inconsistency feels exhausting. Shallow connection feels empty. She's not trying to be difficult. She's simply no longer hungry for what once sustained her. Solitude taught her that peace is more valuable than attention, and alignment more important than approval. In practical life, this shows up clearly. She stops over-explaining. She doesn't chase conversations that feel forced. In her career, she declines opportunities that don't respect her values, even if they promise quick rewards. Her productivity improves because her energy is protected. Emotional boundaries create space for focus, growth, and intentional progress. Then comes the internal confirmation, the moment she realizes she hasn't lost anything meaningful. What fell away was incompatible, not essential. She feels lighter, not lonelier, stronger, not isolated. being unavailable to the wrong people made room for the right assignments, the right connections, and the right season. So here's a sincere question to sit with. Who no longer has access to you, and why? Is it possible that God didn't make you distant, but discerning? When a woman walks alone long enough, she doesn't close her heart. She guards it. And that changes everything. The hidden cost others don't see, but God does. Walking alone has a cost no one applauds. It's paid in quiet nights, unanswered questions, and moments where strength feels thinner than faith. From the outside, it may look like independence. Inside, it often feels like endurance. Women who walk alone carry weight without witnesses, and God sees every ounce of it. Not one tear is wasted. Not one sacrifice is overlooked. Scripture echoes this truth through Hannah's story. She was misunderstood, mislabeled, and alone in her pain. Her prayer wasn't polished, it was raw, and God met her there. Before Samuel was born, Hannah paid a price in silence and faith. In the same way, women who walk alone often sow tears long before they see results. Their strength is invisible, but their prayers are not. This hidden cost shows up emotionally. Choosing solitude over dysfunction requires discipline. Saying no when yes would feel easier requires courage. Letting go of familiar people requires trust. Many women wrestle internally, asking God if the sacrifice is worth it. And in that wrestling, faith deepens. Because trust built without immediate reward becomes unshakable later. In daily life, this cost translates into restraint. She doesn't numb the ache with distractions. She doesn't replace people quickly. She sits with discomfort and learns from it. That patience sharpens her character. Productivity becomes intentional, not frantic. Career decisions are guided by purpose, not pressure. Mental health stabilizes because she stops betraying herself for connection. Then comes the quiet assurance. Not dramatic, but certain. A deep knowing settles in her spirit. God sees me. And that awareness changes everything. Validation from people becomes optional. Approval loses its power. The cost doesn't disappear, but it gains meaning. Sacrifice transforms into investment. So here's the question worth asking. What have you carried alone that no one ever acknowledged? And what if God has been counting every unseen moment as preparation, not punishment? Hidden costs often precede visible rewards, especially in the hands of God. Why God trusts these women with greater responsibility. There is a quiet truth many overlook. God doesn't entrust weight to those who need constant company. He entrusts it to those who have learned how to stand alone without collapsing. When a woman walks alone and still remains faithful, disciplined, and grounded, heaven takes notice. Solitude becomes evidence. It proves she can carry responsibility without applause, direction without constant reassurance, and pressure without panic. The scriptures reveal this pattern again and again. David was anointed king long before anyone respected him as one. He returned to the fields, alone with sheep, alone with his thoughts, alone with God. That unseen season built the strength that later faced giants. Women who walk alone live in that same space, trusted before they are celebrated. God tests character in private long before he releases influence in public. Responsibility begins internally, managing emotions, governing thoughts, choosing obedience when no one is watching. Solitude forces a woman to develop inner order. She learns self-discipline, emotional regulation, and spiritual consistency. That inner structure is what makes her reliable. God doesn't overload unstable foundations. He builds capacity slowly, deliberately, and often in silence. In practical terms, this responsibility reshapes daily life. She becomes dependable, not just to others, but to herself. She keeps commitments. She honors boundaries. In her career, she handles pressure with maturity instead of impulsiveness. Productivity improves because she doesn't rely on motivation alone. She relies on structure. Responsibility stops feeling heavy and starts feeling natural. Then comes the moment of recognition, usually quiet, rarely dramatic. She realizes God has been trusting her all along, with time, with restraint, with waiting seasons. What felt like isolation was actually stewardship training. She wasn't being withheld from life. She was being prepared to handle more of it. So here's a question to reflect on deeply. If God entrusted you with more influence today, would your inner world sustain it? And could it be that this season of walking alone is proof that God already trusts you more than you realize? Responsibility doesn't arrive suddenly, it grows in silence. Why this season ends with alignment, not loneliness. Here's the truth most people never tell you. Women who walk alone are not meant to stay there forever. Solitude is a season, not a sentence. God never removes without intention, and He never isolates without alignment in mind. What feels like emptiness is actually space. Space being prepared carefully, deliberately, and lovingly. Loneliness was never the destination. Alignment always was. The Bible makes this clear in Ruth's story. She walked through loss, displacement, and uncertainty with no guarantees. From the outside, she looked alone, but heaven was aligning her steps. Every faithful decision positioned her closer to redemption, and at the right moment, not early, not late, connection arrived. Not forced, not rushed, aligned. Women who walk alone are often being repositioned for relationships, assignments, and environments that match who they've become, not who they were. This is where patience is tested the most. After growth, healing, discernment, and authority, the heart naturally wonders, so when does it change? And the answer is rarely dramatic. Alignment usually arrives quietly, through shared values, through mutual respect, through peace, not chaos. God doesn't replace people hastily. He connects intentionally. In real life, this alignment feels different. Conversations flow without effort. There's no need to perform, explain, or shrink. In career, opportunities come that honor both skill and integrity. In relationships, emotional safety replaces anxiety. Productivity becomes sustainable because life is no longer lived in survival mode. Mental health stabilizes because connection no longer costs identity. Then comes the deep internal resolution. The moment she understands why walking alone was necessary, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. She sees clearly now, if those people had stayed, this alignment wouldn't have been possible. The solitude didn't break her. It refined her capacity to recognize what truly belongs. So let me ask you one final question. If God is aligning your future, are you willing to trust the timing, even when the present feels quiet? Walking alone was never about losing people. It was about becoming ready for what and who is coming next. You thought walking alone was a detour, but it was the direct route to destiny. Every separation, every silence, every confusing goodbye, they weren't coincidences. They were surgical moves by a God who sees further than you can. Now you know, the loneliness had layers, the isolation had purpose, and the you that's standing here now, she's not the same woman who started this journey. She's wiser, sharper, calmer. She walks differently because she walks with God. So tell me, which part of this journey hit closest to home for you? Let's talk in the comments. And if this message found you in the middle of your quiet season, like this video so it reaches another woman who needs it too. And now listen carefully. If you think this episode shook your perspective, wait until you discover what God reveals when the right people start showing up again. That's the next chapter, and it's coming.